Queen Camilla had prepared herself for resistance, whispers and cold palace smiles. But she had not prepared for the silence that followed Charles's final words. In one private decision, the king changed the rhythm of her royal life. Not her title, not her public image, something far more intimate, her access. Charles did not raise his voice. He did not soften the blow with promises, memories, or gentle excuses. He simply placed the signed order on the table between them, and the room seemed to shrink around the queen consort. The controlled access protocol, a formal palace rule deciding who may enter private royal rooms and archives, was now real. It meant Camilla could no longer move freely through certain inner palace areas without approval. Not because her title had changed, because trust had. Camilla stared at the paper as though it had spoken against her. She had walked through those corridors as wife, consort, and partner to the king. Now the same walls seemed to answer with a colder message. Her unrestricted access to sensitive archive spaces and family rooms had been reduced. The palace would describe it as order. She understood it as humiliation. Charles watched her hands tighten against the chair arms. He knew what this meant. Inside the monarchy, access was never just about movement. It was about confidence, closeness, and invisible power. A person who could enter private rooms without question belonged to the deepest circle. A person who had to ask permission stood outside a line. That was why this decision mattered. It did not remove Camilla from public duty, but it quietly changed where power ended for her. Camilla tried to answer. Nothing came. For once, the queen had no polished phrase, no sharp reply, no steady smile to cover the wound. The list attached to the order named rooms that now required approval. One sealed corridor connected to private royal records was now under Charles's control. The king did not explain why. His silence made the restriction feel even darker. Camilla rose slowly, still speechless, still burning with questions. As she reached the door, she realized this was not the end. William was already waiting somewhere beyond that corridor. Before the palace could understand the order, it had to understand the people wounded by it. This was never just about doors or keys. It was about trust. Charles stood between duty and marriage. Camilla stood between pride and humiliation. William stood between loyalty and the future crown. In that tense triangle, every glance carried history, every pause became a warning, and every private emotion threatened to become a public royal fracture. Charles understood the damage before anyone said it aloud. Limiting the queen's access would strike her in a place no public insult ever could. A queen consort was not supposed to feel like a guest inside the palace. She helped represent it. Yet the king believed the decision was necessary because certain rooms held letters and records that could shape the future of the crown. Camilla felt the wound differently. She saw a message. Charles had confirmed it without allowing her to shape the story before others heard it. That was what stripped away her dignity, the feeling that the palace had already judged her before she could defend herself. She had spent years fighting for her place, and now one quiet order made that place feel smaller. Every palace crisis has a beginning. But the most dangerous ones rarely announce themselves. They begin with a door left open, a question asked too sharply, a name spoken in the wrong room. For Charles, the breaking point was not a scandal before cameras. It was one private incident at Windsor. An archive room is a protected space where old letters, records, and private family papers are kept away from public view. That night, aides were preparing legacy papers connected to future royal roles, papers touching the next shape of power. Charles noticed the open corridor before anyone explained it. He moved toward the restricted family archive area. He found the queen standing near the doorway. She did not look guilty. She looked wounded. When the king asked why she was there, she lifted her chin and said she had every right to know. She insisted on knowing what was being protected from her. That answer cut deeper than shouting. It told Charles the problem was no longer only about a door. It was about trust breaking under the weight of pride. William arrived moments later. The prince saw the change in his father's face. It was not rage. It was colder. Disappointment. The future king understood at once that something had shifted beyond repair. A senior aide later confirmed the most disturbing detail. One folder had been moved from its original position. That single change sent panic through the household, because even a misplaced folder suggests a breach or a hidden hand. Camilla denied touching anything. She said nothing had been taken, searched, or disturbed by her. But the silence after her denial became heavier than any accusation. Charles did not argue in front of everyone. He simply asked for the archive key to be returned. Camilla stood at the threshold, stared at him, and placed it into his palm without blinking. The queen kept her pride, but the king felt the final line forming between them. That incident became the trigger Charles could no longer ignore, pushing him toward the controlled access decision. Behind the imposing facade of Buckingham Palace, a silent storm is brewing, threatening to reshape the inner sanctum of the British monarchy forever. It began with a single document, a sealed memo resting on a mahogany desk, carrying instructions that would alter the course of royal history. For Queen Camilla, the realization was sudden. The protocols she once navigated with ease were now being placed strictly out of her reach. Seeking answers, she enters the king's private study. The air is thick with the weight of unspoken words and the scent of old leather. King Charles III looks up, his face etched with a profound exhaustion. The burden of the crown has never felt heavier than in this moment. Camilla confronts him, her hand trembling as she holds the document. She demands to know if this restriction was influenced by Prince William's counsel. There is a long, agonizing silence. Charles hesitates, his eyes reflecting a struggle between the love for his wife and his duty to the throne. Finally, the admission comes. The decision was his, framed not as a personal slight, but as an institutional necessity for the monarchy's survival. In the shadows of the grand doorway stands Prince William. His presence is a silent testament to the changing guard and the new order. Camilla turns toward him, her gaze filled with cold disbelief. The bridge between the two generations of royals seems to be crumbling. The palace begins to feel like a fortress. Doors that once opened at her command are now locked, marking the limits of her influence. Household staff lower their eyes as she passes, their silence a reflection of the new boundaries drawn within the royal household. Succession papers and new protocols are filed away in cold metal cabinets, solidifying a future where Camilla's role is carefully contained. Princess Anne, ever the stalwart of the institution, reviews the new arrangements. For her, the crown must always come before personal sentiment. Her direct gaze reflects a lifetime of service, embodying the rigid adherence to tradition that defines the House of Windsor. Nearby, Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, watches the developments with a heavy heart, sensing the emotional toll these decisions take on the family. Outside, the secret begins to leak. The printing presses churn out the narrative of a queen being sidelined in her own home. The public gathers at the gates, their faces illuminated by the morning sun, unaware of the deep fracture within the walls they admire. Camilla stands alone by a window, watching the headlines. She absorbs the permanence of the shift, the weight of the institution pressing down. In the quiet of his office, King Charles removes his glasses. He looks at the final signed document, the cost of kingship clear in his eyes. The reality is accepted. Camilla carries her hurt with a restrained grace, understanding that in this world, love must often yield to duty. The final door is locked. The monarchy continues, its foundations reinforced by the sacrifices of those who dwell within its shadow. As night falls on Buckingham Palace, the institution remains, majestic, unyielding, and forever prioritizing the crown above all personal loyalty.